the statesman and not just the cold warrior. Back to you.
We have to wait and see. Jim, thank you so much. Interesting to hear your thoughts there. Now, Yannick Naud, portfolio manager at Sturgeon Capital, joins us now. You laughed when I asked that question about Putin making his mind up, but the market judgment on this has been actually that we're going to see a solution here. And this morning we've had real positive signs that actually a deal with the IMF is going on there. No mention of the EU, I notice, which is an interesting point there. But this is a solution, isn't it? The IMF option.
The IMF is coming next week. IMF have a long history of dealing with Ukraine. It's not a very good history because Ukraine, since 1984, I think in the last 20 years, has neglected on promise many times. So
you said it.
Yes.
They've been here before and they didn't take the deal.
Yes.
Why is this different?
Well, today there's no other choice. I mean, the economic situation, and regardless of the political situation, which is horrendous and volatile, the economic situation is really critical. I mean, the country probably have $10 billion reserve or even less.
They have another choice. They could take the Russian money. They're not going to do it, but well, that's what the previous administration did.
The real long-term solution would be a solution involving the IMF, EU, as well as Russia, because the problem is too big. I mean,
Russia and the EU aren't going to work together.
Well, I'm not sure. I'm sure.
Conflicting. The reason Yanukovych took the Russian money originally is because it came with, well, it was implied that it came with no conditions. I mean, I'm sure there were conditions in it, whereas the IMF EU deal did come with a lot of conditionality. If we
look at the economic situation, Ukraine today need much more than 15 billion. Whatever it's 15 billion from the IMF or 15 billion from Russia. I mean, we're talking about, you know, the 16 billion current account deficit. They have 3.3 billion of unpaid gas bill. The GDP is not growing. I mean, they enter this situation with in recession. If we look at the Orange Revolution, for example, in 2004, they enter it with a double-digit growth, and 2 years after, the growth was on 2%. So, you know, this kind of revolution have a very, very big impact on GDP. Yeah. And today, I mean, and I will not be surprised if for 2014 the GDP would be down between 5 and 8%.
We've seen that with the likes of Greece and all sorts, haven't we? We have to accept these kind of conditions. Another flash out, Ukrainian central bank here temporarily introducing a ban on foreign exchange withdrawals. The suggestion has been, of course, that they'll allow the currency to weaken to comply with the kind of terms coming from the IMF here, but of course they have to slow that pace because it's been quite dramatic, hasn't it, Jan, over the last couple of days?
Yeah, the currency has been down, what, 23% so far this year. It's not a problem per se for, I mean, it's better for the competitiveness of the country. It's good for exporting company.
But it has to be managed is the point.
But it has to be managed because you have to keep in mind that for the banking system, this kind of shock, this kind of big movement will probably imply bank recapitalization.
You're right, and they were saying actually this morning, the central bank, that they would continue to provide the banks with as much liquidity as they needed.
Yeah. More on Ukraine to come in the programme. Meanwhile, US Federal Reserve Chief Janet Yellen says the central bank will try to get a firmer handle